Welcome to Magic Mania, brought to you by 5 Reasons NBA. New podcast feed we got. Make sure you guys subscribe and follow us on all platforms. We are right here. We got the Orlando Magic just coming off their loss to the New York Knicks, but still, over the last 14 games without Paulo Banchero, 12-2, still looking pretty good. Still looking like they're going to make it to the NBA Cup and have a potential to fight for that cup down the line. But I got my man Josh here with me. How you doing, my man?
How's it going, man? I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great, doing great. Magic doing pretty solid. Not tonight, right? Maybe not the
Yeah,
best thing tonight. They came out pretty hot. They were actually on fire from three. I thought they were going to be able to keep that momentum going. Unfortunately, the Knicks kind of picked up their defense after the first 6 minutes of zero turnovers for the Magic. The last 6 minutes of that first quarter, six forced turnovers by the Knicks, causing the Magic to really fall behind. From there, really wasn't much of a game. The team fell down by almost 38 points. The bench squad was able to bring it close to about 15 for the ending buzzer. But overall, not the best showing for the Magic on their second national game of the night. But Josh, what was your perspective of the game?
I think the Magic started out decent in that first quarter, and then you start seeing the cracks in the defense. I mean, they started the game with no Goga Bazaze. I believe he had a right ankle sprain, so they honestly had a liability on defense, and guys are trying to compete with Cat, Karl Anthony Towns. And I think he got some extra motivation from, I think a little bit of the mental side of the game, interacting with Mo Wagner and I think J.I. out there. So, we saw that kind of bleed into the second half, and they were up over 35 at one point. So a rough game. And, it's hard to, and I guess in the comparison of the last, 12 games, this is just a unfortunate nationally televised game for the Magic. And, they had some issues with turnovers. Guys weren't making shots, and it just kind of fell apart from there.
Absolutely. And I don't want to harp too much on this game, right? This is one of those games you kind of brush to the side and, see where you went wrong, see why you fell into that hole and kind of pick it up from there. But I really want to talk about this Magic team over the last 14 games, right? Because
Yeah.
when Paulo Banchero went down, me, you, and Luca, right? We were all
Hmm.
kind of here stressing over this team, thinking, what is the future going to be like without Paulo Banchero, right? We were
Right.
thinking, hey, this team might be competitive. You might get to see some growth from guys like Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, but they might not do too well. The
Right.
Magic over the last 14 games, like you see in the title, 12-2, and that includes tonight blowouts loss to the New York Knicks.
Yep.
So with that, I mean, we've seen a lot of things develop over those last 14 games. I think the doubts that we had about Franz Wagner last playoffs and when he signed that extension, I think he really proved a lot of that wrong, right?
Yeah.
He was able
Yeah.
to show that he's worth that contract, that he is an up and coming star in the NBA. I mean, he's not only averaging the point total that he had. I mean, tonight he had what 30 plus,
Hmm.
and then other things as well. But he's the guy bringing the ball up. This is the guy that's facilitating and at times being the head of the offense. And I think for when you have a team with Paulo Banchero out, and you didn't really have a necessarily a true point guard or true playmaker. You maybe had, Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, a couple guys that could play make. Franz Wagner took his game to another level. And I
Yep.
think that's what really allowed this team to become what they are. I mean, we even saw against the Lakers what an crazy shot and
Right.
crazy turn of events after Anthony Davis misses those free throws that he goes down and he hits that three. He could have taken the two to tie the game, but took the three to win it. And that shows the level of confidence that Franz Wagner has got during this time, which I think when Paulo comes back, going to be one of the best young duos in the league that you're going to look out for. Josh.
Yeah. I mean, I think when Paulo went down with his injury, they lost the next 5 games, but then I think Franz really stepped into that role, and he decided to own it. And we saw that with especially that Lakers game, that clutch bucket to win that game, and then to come home where they're very good. I believe they're still the undefeated team at home. So they play well in Orlando, and I think that was perfect to where they were at. And yeah, Franz was averaging, I believe, 27 points. You know, they flipped the switch. I mean, then you got KCP with kind of hitting a groove there. After the birth of his son, I think that's some good motivation there. So and then also Goga, always playing with a chip on his shoulder on defense. We saw some really good output from him. Wendell Carter came back, after his injury, and we got some productive minutes. So I think that was all part of the recipe for what they won there outside of tonight's game, the last 9 out of 10. Very solid performance. I mean, these guys definitely, like we've said before, it's tough losing your star player and putting Paulo, but they definitely bought into the next man up mantra, and they made it work for them.
Absolutely, and I think one guy we didn't really get to mention too much was Jalen Suggs, right? I feel like Jalen Suggs has,
Oh yeah,
although
big.
not been, like you said, maybe not as flashy as Paulo or not Paulo, but Franz Wagner when it
Mhm.
comes to that side of things. He's filling so many holes, right? He's
Yes.
able to do so many different things, and I did actually double check. You're 100% correct. Magic still are undefeated at home at 9-0.
Mhm.
But with this team, you have, as you magically touted it last year, the heart and soul of the team, Jalen Suggs still able to do a little bit of everything, right? He's increased just from the eye test. I didn't look at the numbers on this just yet, but look,
Mhm.
the 3 point shot looks a lot better, right? He's
Yeah.
shooting it with a lot more confidence. And that's really what you want to see, right? You don't want to see players hesitate when they take those shots. And I still want to see more out of somebody like De Silva with that, because I
Mhm.
still see when guys are closing out, he can shoot those shots, right? Those are the shots you'd want to take. You don't want to hesitate that 3 point shot and bring it in. But Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner playing with elite level confidence is what allowed this team to be as good as they have. And I think barring tonight's loss, they're the 3 seed, or it looks like maybe the 4 seed now. No, still the 3 seed mathematically. They will
Mhm.
be even with tonight's loss. So for them to be a 3 seed without Paulo Banchero for the last 14 games or plus, right? That's
Yep.
something that's definitely worth commending when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to what you want to see this team improve on, right? Obviously,
Mhm.
some of these games have been really close. They've grinded it out. Where are some of the improvements? Obviously, it's tough to see without Paulo, but what are
Mhm.
some of the things you want to see that this team maybe improve upon going into before he gets back?
Hopefully we get a healthy Goga, pretty soon. Definitely his presence is missed on defense. It's weird, after a pretty much tough loss on the road, in at the Garden, NBA Cup, a lot of fanfare on that. You hope that they can go back, watch some film, make the right adjustments, see what went wrong, see what they can improve on. What in the second quarter they had just a bunch of turnovers that just shouldn't have happened. So I think if they can clean that up, definitely on the defensive side, got to improve somehow, fill in that gap that Goga. I mean, and it's tough because Goga was their guy for this past 13 game stretch. He was crushing it. So to lose a guy like that and you're still without Paulo, it's tough. So I think but you know what? I believe in Coach Mosley. I think he's the right guy to lead the ship in the right direction. And to your point, Suggs, he's developed his shot. And also, I give credit to him because when he came to the Magic, it was kind of tough from on offense. He's mostly known as a defensive guy, but over time he's improved, and I'd like to see more consistency from him. I think he had an off night. It's tough. You're again playing on the road, big market like New York. All the celebs are out there. The court is absurdly orange, but there's all that plays into that game. I'm hoping it's just the off night, and they can make some changes on improving on defense. Suggs did have an off night on offense, so I'm hoping he can improve on that. And I think KCP started the game decent. He had the first 9 buckets and everything. So if they can keep that going, just find some consistency in the inconsistency, I guess.
No, 100%. And with that side of things, it's kind of hard to necessarily put these players under a magnifying glass right now because all of their
Mhm.
roles are overemphasized, right? Paulo
Yeah.
Banchero not being there puts a larger role on everybody's plate, which maybe necessarily wasn't what they were ready for this season, right? But I think when Paulo comes back, this team, after maybe a couple of games to gel back together, this team is going to be really on another level, right? I think we both talked about this with his injury potentially being a blessing in disguise because we were having trouble seeing outside of Paulo early in the season where everybody else was fitting, right? Jalen
Mhm.
Suggs was doing okay, Franz was doing okay, but they weren't really having those signature moments in those signature games. But now with Paulo gone and they were able to kind of get their ball flowing with that, you bring a prolific scorer like Paulo back, and that team it's exciting to think about where they're going to come. Now before we look ahead, I want to just take
Mhm.
one last look behind of those wins that the Magic got over the last 3 weeks or so. Which
Mhm.
one were you most impressed about?
Um, hmm. I'd probably say let's go with the Hornets game because LaMelo dropped
40
44.
something? Yeah.
Yeah. So, big game by a young star in the NBA, and the Magic they didn't fold. I think the rest of the team had rest of the Hornets at least had like 40, and the Magic said, "Hey, if it's Melo's night, let him have his night, let him have his moment, but we're not gonna let that decide our fate." And I think that helped them. I forgot which game that was, to be honest. I just remember that
Mhm.
the big highlight was LaMelo Ball with 44, but guess who won? The Orlando Magic. So for them to pull that out, was great. I think that's definitely a game that stands out within that stretch.
For sure, for sure. And I think the easy pick one would be, the Lakers game, right? That's the easy
Mhm.
pick one. But for me, I really enjoyed their win against Chicago. It was a high scoring game, right? Not necessarily the best defense, but what was it? 6 players in double figures, right?
Yeah.
And you had 4 players, 20, 21, 18, 19, 4 players almost at 20 points, right? And I think that's really what you want to see behind Paulo Banchero is guys that can do a little bit of everything, right? You have
Right.
guys like you said, Goga, right? 21, 11, and 3 with 2 steals and 2 blocks, right? That's a stat line, right? You
That's
had,
solid. Yeah.
KCP 18, 4 steals, 2 assists, right? You had Jalen Suggs 7 assists and on top of that 20 points, right? So when Paulo Banchero comes back, I think that's the game you want to point to where you
Mhm.
don't have one guy doing too much, but you have your A1 superstar and then literally everybody else right there backing him up doing all those little things too. So I think that was probably the most impressive win for me just because I think that's the game that you can look back on and apply that one most when it comes to when Paulo comes back. Now, let's look at over the next couple weeks, right? We have the next one coming up. We got back-to-back games versus Philadelphia, and then after that, Phoenix, OKC, and where are we at now? We're the third, so let's go 20 games out. So Phoenix, OKC, and Miami. So Philly twice, Phoenix, OKC, Miami. Out of those 5 games, give me your prediction.
Um, the Suns are going to be tough. Who else? Let me see if I can either pull up a
OKC's
schedule
in
or
on
something.
prime time, so that's probably going
Okay,
to be a
see,
block for some
okay,
reason.
yeah. I'm hoping that feels like a revenge game, honestly, because I believe last season was that they played the Thunder at Shaq's retirement jersey retirement game,
Mm,
and they got blown out. That was also nationally televised. I remember going to that game and I was like, "Oh man, that's rough." Because after the game, they're putting up Shaq's jersey in the rafters and everything. I was like, it would have been nice if they got a win. But OKC, they're pretty determined. I mean, they didn't really make too many moves and drastic moves, I guess, in the offseason. So they kind of kept their core. That'll be an interesting matchup. Two young teams going at it. I'd like to see the Magic pull a win out of that. Who they have after that one?
after OKC, they got Miami.
Miami. Okay. It's been pretty rough for the Heat this season,
Been
right?
terrible
Yeah.
for the Heat,
Yeah. So I
to say
think
the least.
I'm gonna say a dub on that one. They're gonna get that win. And who else do they have coming up?
Yeah, I mean, after that, it's Boston and Miami again. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
so
So
Boston is going to be an interesting matchup. I definitely want to see that how they match up against those guys. I mean, defending champs, right? You know, those are games that you want to. I think
you circle on your calendar.
right. Yes, the statement game. You know, how do you match up against defending champs early in the season? Uh, what right before Christmas? So you know,
Yeah,
um, we'll see how they do there. I think Celtics, to their credit, I mean, I'm seeing Celtics highlights. I think after every game they play. So you know they've got
makes me
a
sick.
they've got a good organization out there. It's weird, man. Like I'm not a Celtics fan, but I do like the personnel. Joe Mazzulla is a crazy guy, but I think that will be a fun game to watch. And I think if they can recover from this loss and learn, you know, watch film, learn how to overcome, you know, hard offenses, I think they can stand a chance against the defending champs.
Definitely. I think a big part of it is the personnel that you have available, right? Because you
Yeah,
know, with no Goga, especially if Embiid, because Embiid's out. Is he currently out? Joel Embiid?
I want to say he is. I can
I feel
double
like he's
check.
always out, right? Dude's a
Yeah.
bum. But yeah, I mean, we got 76ers next twice. If he's out with no center for the Magic, also, I think those are 2 wins, right? I think Phoenix, um, I think that's a game that Orlando can win, right? I mean,
Mhm.
defensively, the Magic are very lengthy, right? They have a lot of long guys. They have a lot of people that you can really do that. Now, they had Kevin Durant come back, and I think Bradley Beal came back around the same time as well. So now it's a much different team than what you faced a couple weeks ago. But I do
Yeah.
still think defensively, this team can give them a lot of trouble, right? Now, if they're able to keep up with them offensively, that's the question that's really to be asked. But I think that's going to be an interesting one. OKC, like you said, that might be a statement game. And also, it's, um, Phoenix and OKC, those are 2 games that are at home, right? So those are 2 games
Yeah.
that will test the Magic's undefeated streak at home when it comes to that side of things. And actually, that's they
And
got a pretty good
yeah,
streak after that. So then they have Miami. I think they win against Miami. Boston, I think. Boston,
it'll be
Boston.
an interesting matchup for
Yeah,
sure.
it's gonna be an interesting one. I think they sweep the series against Miami regardless, though. Um,
Mm.
when it comes to that, so I think over
And to
the next 5 games. Say that
yeah
again. Sorry.
to that to your point about defense, I believe the Magic have top three defense in the league right
Mhm.
now. You
Yeah.
know,
I
so
mean, before
we'll
tonight's game, it was the number 1 scoring defense in the league.
mhm. Yeah. So we'll again, man, it's tough to talk about the future after a game where you know I felt positive, you know, about this game, but the product on the floor just didn't match up, man.
Right. You asked us about this game after last game being 12-1 on the last 13. I mean, it's a
Mm.
different story. You're like, "Oh,
Oh,
this team's
yeah,
gonna go 5-0,"
yeah.
right? But now you
It's
kinda see some of the
recency
flaws,
bias, man.
especially when they're hurt, things like that. So, I think out of the next 5, probably 4-1. I think this team
Mm.
will continue to overachieve, a little bit, and I think, like you said, with, Coach Mosley, they have a really good leader, and players are starting to grow into their own. KCP is starting to get a little bit better. Goga, you see guys like, even though he's not doing the best to Silva, he's hit a couple shots. You know what I mean? He's got
Yeah.
seen a couple go down, and I think that's really important for a rookie. You know what I mean? But outside of that, man, closing thoughts before we close out here, Josh.
Uh, you know, I think they'll recover from a tough loss, and I agree with you. 4-1, that sounds very solid. You know, they just got to clean it up on defense, and you know, keep it going. I think they had some really good momentum over the past 12, 13 games. You know, one loss doesn't define your whole month. I think, especially with them coming back home, you know, they play well uh, at the Kia Center. So, you know, I think they can keep that energy going. The fans love it, man. You know, you go to a game now and it's like it's electric. So
Way
a great
different than 3 4
atmosphere.
years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, you're seeing it on social media. You know, even mainstream media is talking about the Magic. That's
Yep,
great. You know, so I think there's a lot of good energy around this young Orlando Magic team, and you know, I think they can make some noise this December.
absolutely. Excited for that. And I want to give a shout out. I'm not sure if he's still here with us, but my man Cap for Life, you've been supporting us way back all these years, my brother. I appreciate you joining us in the comments, man. And Yeah, man, I think with this Magic team, it is really exciting, especially when you see teams like OKC, you see teams like, Boston really get over the hump with their young stars, right?
Mhm.
Um, this team could be that next squad, right? That's in that, thing. And then on top of that, you still have guys that really haven't given everything you've asked for them yet, right? Like Anthony Black still has a lot to grow. De Silva still has a lot to grow. Jet Howard still
Mhm.
has a lot to grow, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of players on this team that still have a lot of room for improvement going into before this season ends. So it is an exciting position to be in. But outside of that, y'all, we appreciate you guys joining us as always. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, all the deal. Follow the new podcast feed, right? We got a new podcast feed for 5 Reasons NBA. So also, if you guys have a podcast feed and you're supported without anybody, hit us up. We could potentially get things lined up for you as well out here. But Josh, how do we close this out, my man?
Hey, go Magic.
Let's go, baby.